In the year 1861, Barr Lassiter, a young man of 22, lived with his parents and an elder sister near Carthage, Tennessee. The family were in somewhat humble circumstances, subsisting by cultivation of a small and not very fertile plantation. They were not rated as among the so-called best people of their neighbourhood, but they were honest persons of good education, well-mannered, and as respectable as any family could be. The elder Lassiter had a severity of manner, but also an uncompromising devotion to duty and warm and affectionate disposition. As a result, the family home, while kindly, was also a veritable citadel of duty. When the war came on, it found in the family, as in so many others, a divided sentiment. The young man was loyal to the Union, the others savagely hostile. This unhappy division created domestic bitterness, and when Barr Lassiter left home with the avowed purpose of joining the Federal Army, not a word of farewell or good wishes followed him out into the world. Making his way to Nashville, he enlisted in the first organization he found, a Kentucky regiment of cavalry. In due time, he passed through all the stages of military evolution, from raw recruit to experienced trooper. His surviving comrades later described him as a right good trooper. 2 years after Barr had joined it, his regiment passed through the region from whence he had come, where the country had suffered severely from the ravages of war. The region had been occupied alternately and simultaneously by the belligerent forces, and a sanguinary struggle had occurred in the immediate vicinity of the Lassiter homestead. But of this the young trooper was not aware. Finding himself in camp near his home, he felt a natural longing to see his parents and sister. Hoping in them, as in him, the natural animosities of the period had been softened by time and separation. Obtaining a leave of absence, he set foot in the late summer afternoon, and soon after the rising of the full moon was walking up the gravel path leading to the dwelling in which he had been born. Soldiers in war age rapidly, and by now Barr Lassiter felt himself an old man. He had almost expected to find the place a ruin and desolation, but nothing apparently was changed. At the sight of each dear and familiar object, he was profoundly affected, his heart beating audibly. His emotion suffocated him, an ache in his throat as he unconsciously quickened his pace until he almost ran. The house was unlit, the door open. As Barr approached and paused to recover himself, his father came out and stood bareheaded in the moonlight. "Father!" cried the young man, springing forward with outstretched hand. "Father!" The elder man looked him sternly in the face, stood a moment motionless, and, without a word, withdrew into the house. Bitterly disappointed, humiliated, inexpressibly hurt, and altogether unnerved, the soldier dropped upon a rustic seat in deep dejection, supporting his head upon his trembling hand. But he was too good a soldier to accept repulse as defeat. He rose and entered the house, passing directly to the sitting room. In the dim lighting, on a low stool by the hearthside, the only article of furniture in the place, sat his mother. She stared into a fireplace. Barr spoke to her tenderly, with concern and hesitation, but she neither answered nor moved, nor seemed in any way surprised. True, there had been time for her husband to inform her of their guilty son's return. He moved nearer and was about to lay his hand on her arm when his sister entered from an adjoining room, looked him full in the face, and passed him without a sign of recognition. She left the room by a door that was partly behind him, and he turned his head to watch her. When she had gone, his eyes again sought his mother. She, too, had left the place. Barr Lassiter strode to the door by which he had entered. Through his tears, the moonlight on the lawn created a rippling sea, the surrounding trees and their black shadows shaking as in a breeze. Even the gravel walk seemed unsteady and insecure to step on. Barr felt his tears on his cheek and saw them sparkle on the breast of his trooper's jacket. He left the house and made his way back to camp. The next day, with no very definite intention and confused feelings, he again sought the spot. Within half a mile of it, he met Bushrod Albro, a former playfellow and schoolmate, who greeted him warmly. Barr told him that he was going to visit his home. His friend looked at him rather sharply, but said nothing. "I know," said the soldier, "that my folks have not changed, but—" Albro interrupted him to say that there had been changes, and offered to accompany him. He said that they could talk on the way, but Albro did not talk. Instead of a house, the two men found only fire-blackened foundations of stone, enclosing an area of compacted ashes pitted by rains. Barr's astonishment was extreme. Albro quietly said that he could not find the right way to tell his friend that in the fight a year ago his house had been burned by a federal shell. Barr desperately asked about his family. Where were they? Albro answered, "In heaven, I hope. All were killed by the shell."